All right. Just again, like I said, we're thankful that you guys are joining us here today for our monthly lunch and learn for Missouri Community Betterment, and to let you know a little bit more who Missouri Community Betterment is, our board of directors. We've had some updates, and so I'll just go through these next couple of slides. Brett Dinkins is our president. Jeff Corman is our secretary, and I'm currently the treasurer. We've also got Elaine Campbell. She's on the call today. She's one of our past presidents, as is Tanya Watson. We also have Jennifer Whitson, Diana Huckstep, Paula McCrae, Emily Smith, and John Robinson. Sorry. And then we also have Brenna Bontrager, but we don't have her picture. And then we've got our board assistants. If you've ever tried to reach out to any of us, you may have heard from one of them or emailed one of them. We've got Cece, Darla, and Vicky, and they all help us do what we need to do. And today, our guest speaker is Lindsay Latham, the Grants Management Section Chief for Missouri State Parks. Lindsay, I already went ahead and made you co-host, so I believe you should have screen sharing capabilities.
Am I muted? Can everyone hear me okay?
I hear you.
Yes.
Yes. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my slides then and turn the time over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to go over some of our grants here we have in Missouri State Parks. And I'm sure some of you, I've seen some of your cities pop up and they're names that I've been into. I've been with the Missouri state government for 9 years now, but I've been with state parks for about a year, and I've had some lovely time traveling around. So I'll get right into it. If we have time, I'll save questions for the end. But please, if you have anything, bring them up, and I'll try to answer all the questions I can as possible. So let's get to it. All right. Is everybody seeing this? Is it sharing yet, or let's try this again. All right. We're seeing it all right there? All right.
Yes, perfect.
All right. So our Missouri State Parks, we have several outdoor recreational grants. My name is Lindsay Latham. I'm the section chief with the grants management section here at Missouri State Parks. So I'm going to go over our learning objectives for this presentation. We're going to learn about grants that are offered here at Missouri State Parks. Things in my way. Let's see. The little description box is right in the middle where I'm trying to talk. So we're going to learn about the grants that we offer here at Missouri State Parks. We are also going to move to the next one. Understand how to apply for funding for the grant, determine which programs best fit your project, and learn strategies for ensuring that your grant application is successful. So I'll talk about our first grant is the Land and Water Conservation Fund, or as we call it, LWCF. This is a federal pass-through grant that was created in 1965 by the Land and Water Conservation Fund Act, and is administered on the federal level by the National Park Service, and here at the state level by the Department of Natural Resources, Division of Missouri State Parks, and is funded primarily through offshore oil and gas drilling leases. So this is funds to provide for outdoor recreation and development for public outdoor recreational facilities. This funding helps fund our big national parks like Yosemite and Yellowstone and Mark Twain National Park here in Missouri, and also the small community parks that each some of your cities might have. In the 59 years that Missouri's had the funding through LWCF, we've had over $100 million in funding awarded and over 1,700 projects awarded. Every county in Missouri has an LWCF project. So there are protected lands in every county in Missouri. Who can apply? Local governments can apply, state government can apply, public school districts can apply, public universities, and the land where the project taking place must be publicly owned. How does the funding work? This is a match grant program. It's a 50-50 match. So a project will have to, a minimum, apply. The applicant has to meet 50% of the cost of the project. And the maximum, the federal side is 50% as well. The match can be in cash, in-kind donations, or contributions. This is a reimbursable grant, so you must have the money up front and you'll get reimbursed. You have a maximum of 4 reimbursements a year. The maximum amount that can be requested from the federal government would be $500,000. So the total max of project that you can get funded. Now you can have a project bigger than $1 million, but the grant will only go up to the federal side up to $500,000. So making your minimum share for that grant would be another $500,000. The minimum that we can request it in total would be $25,000. So a $50,000 project can also be awarded under this grant. Let's go over the apportionment, what kind of money that Missouri has, and the kind of competition that we'll have for the funding. So in 2020, in FY23, Missouri received $3 million in LWCF funding. We also received $1.9 million in Go Mesa funding. Now that's the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act. This is a funding that we combine together in LWCF. That's how they're split up differently, but we actually use it all together as similar funding. So in total, Missouri had $5.1 million in funding in FY23. Now, Missouri State Parks takes a portion of that, and the other, I believe, about $4 million. Missouri State Parks is about $1 million. The other $4 million goes to the communities, and it's in competition. This year we had, I believe, 23. I wouldn't say the numbers exactly in the mid-20s of applicants, and I think we were able to award about 12. So there is, in other years, the competition has been even a little bit more fierce for the funding. So it's really good to make sure that we'll go through some tips and tricks of how to make sure your application is successful as we get through this. What projects are eligible? Well, acquisitions of land and water for public outdoor recreation, new areas, additions to existing parks and school sites, multi-purpose projects where the public recreation can be clearly delineated, and only acquisitions for recreations that outdoor recreation areas be funded. You can develop new facilities, you can renovate existing facilities, and you can do a combination of acquisition development / renovation. All projects must be maintained in perpetuity for public use. It's the stewardship requirement. Let's take a quick look at some of these wonderful projects we have here in LWCF. And if I'm going too quick for someone, please, if you want these slides, I'll be more than happy to send these to anyone if you can reach out to my email. I want to make sure you guys have all the best information possible. So look, this is a wonderful one. This is the City of Clinton's Kids World Playground Project. This was funded in 2018. It was $250,000 awarded for all-inclusive playground. And if you really want to see a really cool video, they made a nice time lapse video of this construction, and you can see how we take a little plot and make a wonderful all-inclusive playground. Here's another project right here. This is the Fowler Tennis Courts in Raytown, Missouri. So this is an example of a project using it for renovation. This was originally funded in 1976 with the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and they renovated in 1985, and then again in 2020. And the renovations in 2020 were $224,000, and it repaired and resurfaced the courts, including striping for youth tennis courts and pickleball courts. So if you live in a state that's had an LWCF park, or you find out your park was LWCF, and it's kind of the usefulness of some of the equipment have gone and passed, it's always great it's honestly part of the requirement is to maintain this equipment for this structure for outdoor recreation in perpetuity. So if you have a playground or a tennis court or anything like that, a lot of swimming pools are now getting to the end of life. So please reach out, and that's a great way to get some funding as well. There's a wonderful park here in Troy, Missouri. This is a great example of public and private partnerships working together. Community operations was awarded $272,000 to develop a park in Troy, Missouri, and this is an all-inclusive park. They donated. There was a donation of 28 acres to the park, which was used for match for the construction for the all-inclusive playground, the roadway, parking, restrooms, and lighting. They also, we'll get to another trail. They had an RTP, a trail around there as well. So this is a really great area. It's actually one of the first parks I got a chance to go out to when I joined Missouri State Parks, as this project was getting completed. And it's a wonderful all-inclusive, and it's definitely being used right there in that community. So it's a really joy to see these things develop and come out as they did. Here's some other wonderful examples of what this funding can be, the diversity that we can use with this funding. If you can see, there's a skate park that we've used for this funding. There can be giant playgrounds. There can be splash pads and water parks. There can be pavilions for outdoor recreation and lunching areas in communities. We have a fishery, a boat dock, a softball, an amphitheater, and some campgrounds. So there's all these different avenues that you can use this funding for to better your communities. Um, Here's some requirements though. So there is a long-term stewardship requirement to maintain the project in good condition and public use. Basically, the way the LWCF sees it and how we want to make sure that we can ensure that these parklands will be here for our great grandchildren, and the desire to develop and build communities and shopping centers don't deter us from having great outdoor recreation in the future. So if you get this funding and you understand like, hey, we need to build a school here, well, we have to find a way to ensure that there's always the same amount of parkland that the federal government funded forever. So let's talk about the next time you can apply for this funding. The 2025 LWCF grant round opens in August. It will be on our website at mostateparks.com, and I'll help navigate there to you. But if you want a really good idea of how the application process works and prepare yourself for 2025 when it opens in mid-August, I would suggest looking at the 2024 open project selection process and the application instructions, as well as if you look at the grant application workshop. On the very bottom, Patty Hubbard, our LWCF project manager, is amazing and does some really great workshops there. You can watch those workshops and get a good idea of how to apply what funding and how the application works and navigates. Because I know these things can be a little daunting, especially if your community doesn't have a grant writer or you're not working with another company that does the grants or have that kind of partnership with someone. It can get daunting, but I want to make sure that there's avenues and help out there for you guys. And we're always an asset to help. We can't write the application for you, but we can definitely give you some tips and tricks and keep you on that path to hopefully be successful. I'll move on to our next project. Our next grant is our Recreational Trails Program, or as we call it, RTP. This is for a federal pass-through grant that was originally created with the Intermodal Surface Transportation Act of 1991, and it had multiple different names since then, before it's now RTP. It is administered at the federal level by the Federal Highway Administration.
Excuse me.
Bless you. In the 30 years that Missouri has had this funding, we've awarded over $26 million and over 360 projects. This one is, it's a little bit newer, of course, and it's about trails. So I know every community doesn't have that, but I think Missouri is obviously a wonderful state for trails. I've been to several conferences with other outdoor recreational providers, and Missouri is also really known for our trails. I know we have the Rock Island Trail that we're working on right now, and we have the Katy Trail that traverses Missouri. So if your community wants a trail, I think it's really good. It's been shown to bring a lot of people and some tourism, and people just want to come and walk in new, beautiful areas and the scenic areas that we have here in Missouri. So
If I could, can I ask a question?
Of course.
If I went to that Missouri Department of Natural Resources, could I see all the walking areas pass in Missouri?
We don't. I know there's some GSIs about trails. There's an application called All Trails that it's more of it's a free application. It's called All Trails. Okay. And Missouri State Parks can partner with some of the communities, and we do update our trails, and we have at Finger Lakes, at all the state parks, we have some ideas of our trails, but when it comes to individual community trails, we don't. But I think it's a great idea, Vicky. I might have to put you on it. We'll have to get a community.
I moved here from Oregon, so I do a lot of hiking in Oregon. There's many wonderful trails there, so I'm struggling to find them here.
Okay, well, I will talk if you always want to have an idea. I'll chat with you. We also do have a trails coordinator. They're not in my part of my section, but there's people in Missouri that can help find some. But our state parks, I can lead you around there. If you go to our website for state parks, we can look at some trails there too. Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
Awesome. So who can apply? Local and state governments, public and private schools, including colleges and universities, not-for-profit organizations such as trail clubs, and land trusts, and youth focus groups. Federal agencies can apply for motorized funding only. The applicant must either own their property or have the right to construct on the property and maintain it for 25 years. So how does the funding work? This is also a match grant program, but unlike LWCF where it's 50-50, this is 80-20. So the applicant only needs to come up with 20% of cost of the whole project, but the federal government can meet the other 80% of the cost of the project. Match can be in kind, cash, or donations for labor, equipment, material use. This is also a reimbursable program, so you'd have to pay for the project upfront and get reimbursed up to 4 times a year. The maximum amount that can be requested is $250,000, and the minimum is $25,000. Unlike LWCF, where that has a lifetime perpetuity clause, this one only has a 25-year stewardship requirement. So it does lessen that barrier of like, if we have to use this land in the future for something else, there's only a 25-year requirement for that. We hope you keep it forever.
Sure.
Let's talk about the apportionment and how we get it. So for FY23, we used the 2022 apportionment. Missouri received, on total, Missouri for sub-grantees to the community, we have about $1.1 million after all the administrative cost, and Missouri State Parks does take some stuff to help maintain the trails and update the trails we have in our park system. How the funding works. So this is interesting. It's broken down by 3 different sections. We want to fund 30% of all our trail programs to be motorized. Our funding has to be motorized. So motorized can be dirt bikes, it could be ATVs, it could be a boating area, a boating trail for motorized boats or kayaks or whatever thing that's motorized. You can do motorized, non-motorized, which could be hiking, could be biking. The non-motorized diverse would obviously be when it's diverse, which like hiking and a bike trail or equine trail and a hiking trail as well. So we split our funding up that way. So I'll say this, historically, we have a hard time spending the motorized money. I know that there's a lot of, I think it takes a lot of space to create a motor track, an ATV track. There's also the liability that comes along with having motorized trails. I know some communities have always either shied away for it or they don't have the area to do that. But you can fund that with that. And if you do have a motorized project, please reach out to us because we don't want to lapse any money and get that back to government. We would love to really use it here in Missouri. But we don't seem to have any problems getting applications for non-motorized or the non-motorized diverse use funds.
Excuse me.
Question? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Those numbers, what I wrote down in my notes from just a minute ago was that 1.1, you had 1.1 billion available, and those numbers seem larger than that.
I think the numbers that it's a percentage broken down for all out of all the money. Let's see what I have. I wonder if I could have got 2 different years mixed up because we also, there we go. I can finally move that. So year math might be better than mine. So let's see. So the motorized and non-motorized diverse funds can, I think we do mix those numbers together a little bit. And these numbers could be from another year. I'll be honest, this slide was given to me by my recreational trails coordinator. I probably should have double checked it, so if these numbers don't match, let's look at the numbers, look at the percentages. 30%, 30, and 40 is what I would say is probably maybe the bigger portion here. So I apologize if my numbers don't match. But yeah, so 30% of our funds have to be motorized, 30% has to be non-motorized, and 40% of our funds have to go to non-motorized diverse use. What projects are eligible for this funding? Ahead. So construction of new trails, construction of trail-side amenities, trailhead facilities, and trail connectors, acquisition of land rights and right-of-way easements, restoration and repairs of existing recreational trails and trail-side amenities, trailhead facilities, and trail connectors, lease of trail construction and maintenance equipment, and assessment of trail conditions and accessibility for maintenance. This does not fund sidewalks. So here's an example of some trails.
Can I ask a question about the restoring and
yes,
figure for the trails? Are there any programs, or are the individual trails responsible for their own? I know out in Oregon there are like a lot of volunteer organizations that go in and work on the trails when they start to get broke down.
I think each community has their own. Now, there are some different communities that have organizations throughout Missouri that do
But
trail
if it's
work.
bad enough, they can get restoration and repair
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they can get this funding for restoration and repair.
That's good.
But I would say a lot of communities do their self, and a lot of these are community owned, so the city's maintenance is up to the cities too, unless it's privately owned. So here's an example of the Ruby Jack Trail that's been recently funded in Missouri, with some of our nice greenery we have here. And here's a nice nature trail here in the Ozark Trail Association. So it doesn't always have to be, like I said, nonprofits also have a beautiful, the ability to make beautiful trails here in Missouri. The recreational trails program will post for 2025 in December of this year, and I'll go over their application, or I'll get to the website at the end of this presentation. So one of the final grants I'll talk about today is the Missouri State Bus Grants. So this is a program that helps bus public schools or private schools, charter schools, youth-focused non-for-profit organizations with a 501c. This helps take at least 2 trips per year to a state park or historic site. So it's a first come first served basis. We have about $35,000 of funding available. I love this program. It's one of my favorite ones. We get the pictures of all the youth and kids coming to the parks. One thing I always love to hear about is we get sometimes a little snippet of all the kids saying, I had no idea this park was out here for me. Or we had all this nature available for them. I think it really brings out the wonderment in youth. This year was the first year we've actually spent all $35,000, and we've actually had to deny applications, which kind of breaks my heart. So we're trying to up that funding, but there's no guarantee. But if you have a school or kids in school, you want to talk to the school, have them reach out to go to a park. I think it's a wonderful thing for your schools and your youth groups to get to. They can request up to $750 per trip. And like I said, and we limit 2 trips per school per year, just so we can make sure that we have enough funding available for all the schools that want to go to. Oh, bonus. I had a bonus trick to you guys. Thought it was the last one. So Historical Preservation Fund. This is, I don't know, actually, this is not a grant I administer, but it's still administered through Missouri State Parks and the State Historic Preservation Office. This is a fund that helps for historic buildings that have been placed in the historic registry, or certified local governments. And this can help for maintenance, repairs, renovations of some historical buildings, and keep those historical landmarks out there looking beautiful for all of this. And here's a quick example of the Fayette Historic Swimming Pool, constructed in 1936 by the WPA. It's a part of the National Registry of Historic Places. And it's always great when we can keep these historic buildings functional, clean, and for the future generations. So and Andrew is the administrator, and I can send you how you get contact information about that grant and that funding. So how do you apply? So you want to go to the Mo State Parks website on the Outdoor Recreational Grants, download the application, attend the application workshop, complete and submit applications on time, sign it. You make sure you want to sign it. LWCF will post in August for the next round. RTP will post in December, and the bus grants will post in the fall. So tips and tricks: come early, start early, read the instructions in the fine print, attend the grant application workshop, take time to get a good cost estimate and build in funds for inflation. Be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Understand what projects will accomplish and what it won't. Be clear, concise, consistent, and have an editor not related to the project read over it. Take advantage of the courtesy reviews if it's given, and invest in your professional development. There's the end. And before I close out and answer some questions, let's go to our website. Are you seeing the website? Can I get a thumbs up if I'm seeing it? All right. So let's go down. If you go to the
Hang on. Sorry,
Hello?
Lindsay, you may want to adjust your screen share or do a new share, because I'm still just seeing your last slide.
Okay, I'll stop. Thank you for letting me know.
Mhm.
Can you see the State Park site now?
Left State Park.
There you go.
All right. So there's Echo Buff. That's a real fun one. There's a beautiful trail there to Ricky. Yeah, and if you want to start on our state parks website, you scroll all the way down to the About Us section, and we're third from the bottom, and it says Grant Opportunities. Click on that, and that takes us to their grant page. So like I said, there's our Land and Water Conservation Fund. If you want more information on that, you would click on that. It gives you a small list of things that are eligible. There's where our grant round will be posted. Here's some information about the projects. Here's some admin guides if you're interested about that and any other things. And we also have a list of some of the cities that we funded in the past years and the amounts. And over here we have grant workshop schedules and some other documents you could look at if you're interested more in that project. Let's go back. I didn't mention this one. I'll skim over this one, but this is the Outdoor Recreational Legacy Program. This is also through LWCF. It's actually a national competition. This is not like our other grants, which are competitive within the state park system or within Missouri. This is a nationwide competition, and there's a lot more kind of stipulations. This is only good for communities that have a population over 30,000, and there has to be within an economically disenfranchised community. There's some other stipulations. We don't always know all the stipulations for this funding. As like I said, this is a national program, and this usually has a much higher funding level. $1 million is sometimes the base of what you're asking for this project, for these projects. So you'd have to have $1 million in match. So it's a 50-50 project. So your community would have to figure out if you're eligible for this one. We'll go back to this is the recreational trails. You would hit for more information for this if you'd like that. And then again, you have same application, project applications, and some other documentation, past administrative guide and recipients, if you're interested on how that worked out. And then the bus grants here. Like I said, we get wonderful pictures of our youth coming to our parks. And when the applications come back in the fall, we'll be here. And here's our contact information. And you can see some of the great things, even the Capitol building, since the Capitol is considered a historic site. We can people go to there to Capitol. We have Earth Day there. That's also a big thing. And it seems like the kids in Rawls County was doing some fun at the Mark Twain birthplace historical site. Look like they're painting for some gold. So, and then if you are interested in the historical preservation grant, that would be under the Historical Preservation Office, or we call it SHPO. You might hear that's the common nomenclature for it. And where is that grant? We will find the grant page is. I'm gonna have to ask. There we go. Historic preservation grants right there. And it talks about the historic preservation anticipates awarding about $200,000 in grants and federal historic preservation funds. And this talks about what they can fund, training, historic workshops and conferences, preservation planning, design guides. So there's a lot of things that you can, if you have a historical building, that you guys can reach out to Andrew Dial. I think if you go to this website, you can get contact information as well. There's a phone number there for Andrew. I'm going to stop sharing and I will take questions that are in the chat. I didn't get a chance to see it, so I apologize if there is anything in there.
I would say most of the questions in the chat or most of the comments in the chat were folks sharing their emails to have slides shared with them. So if you don't mind sharing your slides with Cece or I, since we've both emailed you, we can get those out.
I will be more than happy to share those slides with everyone and send CC, and then you guys can go ahead and distribute that as well. I'll update the numbers. I apologize again about the 30, 30, 40. I was like, oh, that was a great catch. Whoever's that good at math, you're good. I just like, oh, those numbers are numbers, and I like being a numbers person, so I guess I didn't catch it.
Someone wanted you to post your website address again.
Oh, yeah. I can copy it and put it in the chat box. I think you guys may be able to click on it. I'll do that, okay?
Yeah.
And then if anybody else also wants to, we usually we post our these presentations on YouTube after the fact. So if you wanted to go back and rewatch or pause it when you wanted to get a specific bit of information, or share it with other partners
you-
that you have in your communities.
Can you type your YouTube channel in the
Yeah.
box? So that
Yeah. I'll let Lindsay put the website, his website up first, and then I'll get the YouTube one in there.
Thank you for speaking today, Lindsay.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
guys for having me. I really appreciate that. And yeah, please go to if you were looking at trails, Missouri State Park also has a trail. I didn't get a chance to look over it to show it, and I'm not the website designer, so I know, but we do have our state park trails are on there. Like I said, in the application, all trails, it's a really great application. I should be doing more trails to probably help me lose some weight, but we have a great app that shows all the trails that we have in Missouri. Missouri does have some very beautiful some landscapes to see. And if you haven't got a chance to go out to the new part of the Rock Island, I know there's 47 miles completed on the eastern end. It's really beautiful there, and it's the work that's doing in some of these communities are awesome. I know that
Did
it's
you say it was called Rock Island?
the Rock Island. It's a new state park that we're working on, and it's a trail that's going to traverse Missouri. So we have the Kitty Trail that goes from the east and west part of Missouri, and the Rock Island is going to kind of crisscross it, still going from east and west to Missouri. So you'll have two ways that you can traverse Missouri through bike or walk.
Right. Awesome.
This is Elaine Campbell from Houston. I guess I don't have my video on, but let me get it here. We have received 4 or 5 grants through his program, and there is lots of paperwork, but it is well worth it, and they work with you very well. But if you're wanting to do one of these grants, you need to start today. Which, I mean, if you have a program, you have an idea, then the things that he talked about, then you begin to contact them, because there will be a time probably about the end of December that they will give you a courtesy review, even though the grant is not due till February, but you certainly want to go through that courtesy review. But if you have anything, I mean, I would contact them this afternoon or tomorrow and say, hey, we're thinking about this program or whatever, and let them guide you through it. Don't you wait till February for any of this. And you go to the grant workshop, and you know the things that they require, so that you won't be surprised. And then when you get finished, as he has mentioned, that you have to pay for it all up front before you get reimbursed. So that kind of makes people a little hesitant, because if you want $500,000 and you're going to have to come up with $100,000, you need to be thinking about that right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but they can do a lot of good. We did a big $1.6 million swimming pool renovation. We did a Brushy Creek Trail. We did soccer fields, and but you have to definitely own your land. You can't get in the middle of this and then decide, oh, we need some more land and we need to buy it from somebody. That's not going to work. So if you have something in mind and you've tuned in here to get the ideas, you get on board with it, and you get on board with them too. And as they said, one of them, didn't you say something about $1.5 million?
Well, we have, yeah, depending on your project, you can,
Right.
all the stuff can go up pretty high, but you have 500,000, but you can make a bigger project.
Right, but you have like maybe $1.5 million.
Yeah.
If I have a $500,000 project, that means there's only going to be 3 that's going to be funded,
Mhm.
or you said 12 was funded, so some of them are smaller.
Well-
And that's really great. But you get, also, I would advise you to get you an architect or an engineer to make your plan up front. Don't have some pie in the sky idea. You may really have it down pat of what you want, and then it makes it real easy for them to get on board with you, or they have to tell you, no, go back and confirm this. I really appreciate this.
And I know I don't want people to get too caught up on how much money Missouri State Parks has, because and the federal government does this too. So if there's anything that's left over, we try to make sure. So our money, the double amounts are flexible to a certain degree. So some years we might have a little bit more money, some years we might have a little less, depending if there was a de-obligation from past years that we have, that the government still has money in our account that we're supposed to get in our apportionment. So those dollar numbers, I don't want to go too far in there, but I do understand there is a limited amount of money. It's not a huge, we don't have $100 million. We're not the size of Texas where their apportionment is, basically, our almost economy they get from the federal government because their population is so much more immense than us. But Elaine, that was great information. Thank you so much. Yeah, get with us as soon as we can. We're here to help.
They will. Well, I'm familiar with Iowa, and they get a amount of money probably that you do, but they do not put it in conservation and things. They just take their money and put it in general funds.
Mhm.
So we're really fortunate to have the way that it is divided up and this offshore oil well drilling. It's a hard word I'll say, but the way that it has come to Missouri, and you saw on that map all of those parks and all of those things that's going on. That's not happening in Iowa and some of the other states. So we are very, very fortunate to have it. But if you be sure and get your act together so he can help you, and he will help you, and others in that will help you too.
Yeah. I have a wonderful team of young ladies that are smart and willing to help, from Patty Hubbard to Aiden Dignite and Amanda Jacober and Bonnie Higdon and everybody that's in the grant section in Missouri State Parks. They're awesome. So
yeah, I've known Bonnie for like 15 years, and she's
been
helped
doing
us
this a long time. She's been,
yes,
I think, since the 90s. So she has a wealth of knowledge. So
makes me old too.
we're all getting old. I got a gray beard. My daughter was poking me the other day. I had a gray hair. She's like, "Oh, hey, don't, I'm getting a little older. It's okay."
No, don't do that. Just keep trying.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions? I'd be more than happy to answer.
I just have a silly question. So if it's a Missouri State Park, isn't that on Missouri State land?
Yes, so it's land
Well,
that,
the ones that you need to make sure you have enough land, or like the private trails and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But remember your perpetuity part of it.
So the
Then
perpetuity is
your
for
trail becomes
LWCF.
a part.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Perpetuity is
But
all
that makes you a
LWCF
part
and
of the
25 years
that.
for RTP.
Yeah,
So it's a big commitment.
That's
These are
it.
commitments. But then your grandkids will have places to play. So it's always fun. Or
Right.
great grandkids
But
or
that-
however that's going to
Yeah, but what if we don't like our grandkids?
be. Yeah. Well, maybe when they
No,
have grandkids,
I
they'll
like
say-
my grandkids.
You have great grandkids, then you like them.
Yeah, exactly. It skips a generation.
want-
Who knows?
Thank you, Lindsay. You've done a great
Thank
job.
you.
I really appreciate it. I've got one quick question just for clarification. And I'm sorry, my name is Laura Crowfoot. I'm from a little town called Keansville up in Harrison County, way up north. So my question is, does this have to be on state-owned, a state park?
No, if your community,
Okay,
it just
good.
needs to be
I just
public.
misunderstood.
No,
Thanks.
so the state stuff is for the state. It just needs to be open to the public. And there are some rules about how the land is acquired, but we can get to those details once you've identified a project and if those eligibility concerns. There's not really many. We just want to make sure that things weren't taken by like intimate domain. Like the local government didn't just come take somebody's land because they wanted to make a park. There's some rules about making sure there's a fair value for the land that was given. And if it was decided and the land was sold, that it was going to be for public outdoor recreation. And a lot of times we see parks and trails built on government land, like the city land they've owned forever. This wasn't something that was ever, Mr. Johnson's land, or maybe Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Johnson bequeathed it at the end of, their estate. We see a lot of that as well. And then, sometimes we'll see a lot of times where people are just so big-hearted, they'll bequeath all these lands with the stipulation that it needs to be a park. And that's obviously allowable as well.
That's cool.
Okay, last call for any other questions.
All good. Thank you.
Okay, then I'm going to pull my slides back up real quick to close us out.
Thank you so much for your time today, Lindsay. You did a great job.
Thank you, guys. It was very
Yes.
pleasant. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the committee to reach out to me and to be a part of this. And thank you guys all so much.
Thank you,
I
Lindsay.
hope you guys apply.
Okay, just some more information for Missouri Community Betterment. Both, I think Cece and I posted the YouTube in the chat if you ever wanted to click on that, but you can also visit us at the website. And there's a contact us button, and that's a real easy way to email us. There's also our phone number, and then we're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We do these lunch and learns monthly, and so these are the next few dates. It's always the third third Wednesday of the month at noon, same time. So you can join us for those. I know that upcoming in July in particular, we're going to be talking about a very specific project that has to do with a butterfly trail. Let me pull up the information about that real quick so I can give you guys a little taste on that. Here we go.
I can share if that's helpful, Elizabeth, or if you've got it, that's great too.
No, I've got it right here. So we'll have Bob Hughes from Hamilton, Missouri, speaking about kind of a project that had run a little dormant, and they're looking to revive it. It's a butterfly trail that'll run north to south through western Missouri. And one area that they're specifically targeting is the Highway 13 corridor. There's some potential there. There was a Highway 13 corridor coalition that had started work on the project prior to the pandemic, but they're trying to pick that back up. And so if folks are interested in that, they're looking for it to.
You just froze.
To help our pollinators in our environment. So I think that's a really cool project that we'll be talking about in July. Also, we've got our Better Together Fund. If you're ever interested in donating, that helps us put on projects like this and be sustainable. There is this QR code for more information. And then we've also got coming up our annual conference in October. October 21st is the date for that. It'll be at the big Missouri Farm Bureau building here in Jefferson City. We hope that you all will join us. Keep an eye on your email inboxes and our newsletters that come out regularly. We'll have registration information coming out about that soon. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you next month. Thank you again, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you, everyone.